In April of 1970, a letter arrived in a San Francisco newspaper. It opened with 3 words: "My name is." And then the writer stopped using words. What followed was a string of 13 symbols, a code. He was telling them exactly who he was, his name spelled out, and daring them to read it. That was more than 55 years ago. The code has never been solved. The man who wrote it called himself the Zodiac. He murdered at least 5 people in Northern California, taunted the police in letter after letter, and threatened to kill many more. And running through all of it was a game no one had ever seen a killer play. He didn't just hide from the police, he sent them puzzles. He encoded his secrets, mailed them to newspapers, and demanded they be printed on the front page. He sent 4 of these codes. 2 have been cracked. 2 never have. And here is the maddening heart of this case. The code they fought hardest to break, the one that took 51 years, when it finally fell, it told them nothing. And the code that holds his name may be impossible to solve by its very design. This is the Zodiac's real mystery. Not just who he was, but the fact that he told us in his own hand and made certain we could never read it. Most killers want to disappear. The Zodiac wanted an audience. Between December 1968 and October 1969, a series of attacks struck the San Francisco Bay Area. Couples ambushed in parked cars, a cab driver shot in the city itself. At least 5 people were murdered. 2 more survived to describe their attacker. The killer was never caught in the act, and the crimes might have blurred into a string of separate tragedies, except he wouldn't let them. He began writing letters to the San Francisco Chronicle and other Bay Area papers. He took credit for the murders. He included details only the police and the killer could have known. He gave himself a name, the Zodiac, and a symbol, a circle crossed by lines like the crosshairs of a gun sight. And he made a demand: print my letters or I'll kill more. But the letters weren't only threats. Almost from the start, they came wrapped around something else: codes. On the last day of July, 1969, he mailed the first one, split into 3 pieces, sent to 3 different newspapers. Each paper received a third of a cipher built from strange symbols and a warning: print it or he would go on a killing spree. This first code became known as Z408 for its 408 characters. It did not last long. A high school teacher named Donald Hardin, working with his wife Betty, took it apart in a matter of days. Their insight was simple and very human. A man this proud would begin by talking about himself. They tried starting the message with the word "I" and the word "killing." It worked. What they uncovered was chilling. The Zodiac wrote that he liked killing people because it was, in his words, so much fun. He wrote that he was collecting his victims as slaves for an afterlife he was certain was waiting for him. It was a window straight into him. But it was missing the one thing everyone was searching for. He never signed it. The name wasn't there. So he sent another, longer and far, far harder. In November 1969, a card arrived at the Chronicle carrying a new cipher, 340 characters this time, Z340. Once again, he asked for it on the front page. And this time, the code held. It didn't fall in a month. It didn't fall in a year. Codebreakers, professionals and amateurs alike, threw themselves at it for decades and got nowhere. One cryptologist would later rank it among the most stubborn coded messages on Earth, second only to a centuries-old manuscript no one has ever managed to read. The Zodiac had built something that outlived the manhunt, outlived the headlines, and looked like it might outlive everyone who ever tried to solve it. It would take 51 years. In December 2020, 3 men who had never met in person finally broke it. An American software developer, an Australian mathematician, and a Belgian programmer working together online with custom software that tested hundreds of thousands of possibilities, and one key realization: the message had to be read diagonally in a staggered pattern, not straight across. After half a century, Z340 gave up its secret. The FBI confirmed the solution was real, and the whole world leaned in to hear the name. It wasn't there. The message was another taunt. He mocked the people trying to catch him. He said he wasn't afraid of the gas chamber because it would only send him to paradise, spelled, as always, in his own broken way, that much sooner. 51 years of obsession, and the answer was a sneer from a long-vanished hand. But the Zodiac had already promised them his name. He'd put it in a different code, a much shorter one. Go back to that letter from April 1970, the one that began, "My name is," and then those 13 symbols, Z13. On its face, this should be the easy one. It's tiny, 13 characters, and he told you exactly what they spell. The answer to the entire case, the thing rooms full of detectives chased for years, sitting in plain sight in 13 little marks. But 13 characters is not a gift, it's a trap. A code that short doesn't have one answer, it has thousands. There are so many ways 13 symbols could map to letters that countless names will fit, and no way to prove which one, if any, is real. You can run a suspect's name through it and make it work. So can the next person with a completely different name. Without more code to lock it in place, Z13 can be guessed forever and confirmed never. Sit with what that means. He wrote, "My name is," and then handed over a version of his name that by its size can never be verified. He didn't fail to tell us who he was. He told us in a form designed so that we could never be sure. And that, in the end, is what the ciphers really were. There was a fourth code as well, Z32, tied to a map claiming to mark where he had hidden a bomb. It has never been solved either. Like the others, it may have been less a message than a move in a game. Because the Zodiac's codes were never really about keeping secrets, if he had wanted to stay hidden, the simplest thing in the world was silence. Instead, he wrote and wrote and wrapped his words in puzzles he could dangle in front of a terrified public. The ciphers controlled the headlines. They controlled the fear. They turned an entire region and the police hunting him into players in his game, on his board, by his rules. Over the years, many names have been put forward as the man behind the symbol. Suspects have been proposed, accused, argued over, and written into books. Not one has ever been proven. The case remains open. The crosshair still has no face behind it. And the cruelest part isn't that we never caught him. It's that he wanted to be read, but only on his terms, and only forever. The Zodiac encoded his own identity and made it unreadable. The one cipher that might hold his name is the one that may be impossible to solve. The codes they did break gave up nothing but contempt. By any measure, he has been gone for decades, and still Those symbols sit there in archives and evidence files, beginning with 3 words and a promise. My name is. And then silence. The answer exists. He made certain of that. He made just as certain that we could never have it. So what do you think? Was Z13 a real name he was arrogant enough to hand over? Or one last bluff from a man who loved the game more than the truth? And if you're the kind of person who can't look away from an unsolved code, 2 of his are still out there, still waiting. Tell me your theory in the comments. I read every one. And if you want more cases the official record never closed, subscribe to the Unsolved Echoes. New case every week. Until next time, stay curious.